Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is a little bit of an impromptu live stream that I have decided to do because a subscriber has been reaching out to me over the last several days to hip me to some information. And I'm always super appreciative of people that give me a heads up about things that they're seeing out there, because it's pretty tough for any one person to like monitor everything that is happening in the universe as it relates to comics, right? Because you have your TV shows, you have your movies, you have your comics, you have your Marvel, DC, I mean, on and on and on. It's impossible. So huge shout out to the subscribers out there that keep me in the loop. And while I can't make every tip or tidbit actionable, there are some that I absolutely like to follow up on, either as a live stream or as a pre-recorded video. And so I want to give a huge shout out to Brian Parent, who has been reaching out to me for the last several days to hit me to something that Marvel is doing. And then he actually hit me before I could figure it out what the actual news was. So we are going to dig into this in just a moment, but I want to say hello to a couple of comic book soldiers that have shown up here in the room. A collector is here. Brian is here. Errol in the house. Carter is here. Huma is in the house. God's best buddy, best name ever. Ben Fong is here. Yong T. Andrea is here. Joker, Just a Rican in comics. Rod, how you doing, brother? T.J. Watson is in the house asking if I work anymore. Yes, this is my work, my friend. Hit the like button. Drop those super chats. Joking. It's good to see you guys, and I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit today. And we're going to make this very quick because I'm actually headed out of the house here to go hunting for some comics. And so I want to keep this thing on task so that I can get myself out of here in a timely fashion. Spill Pen Comics is in the house, and then Adam is here as well. So it looks like my stream is breaking up just a little bit, but according to Comcast, I have blazing fast speed. So we'll see what happens. Harvey Abel is in the house. Tonto is here. It's all good to see you guys. So here's the thing. Over the last several days, Marvel has been doing this big windup on across social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They've been doing this big windup with this countdown that is a web where they've been showing these numbers, and every day the number ticks a little bit lower. And there was a lot of speculation as to what this meant, right? There were people that were like, they are dropping Spider-Man 4 on the day that the countdown stopped at 4. And on the day that it stopped at 1, I think it was the editor-in-chief tweeted out or commented that there was one more day, kind of hearkening back to the story arc of One More Day. So that all throughout this week, there's been, or throughout this countdown, there's been all of this speculation as to what this big announcement would be. And people were like, it's a new movie, but it was being done on Marvel's comic channels and not the MCU related channels. And so that was quickly dismissed. And then there's just been all kinds of, maybe they're bringing back the old Peter Parker to serve as the new, or the old actor that played Peter Parker, bringing him back for a new movie. Maybe it's a TV show, maybe it's this, that, or the other. And today they actually announced what it was. And there was like silence. Well, let me restate. There was like a combination of like, so that's it. There was a tremendous amount of like disappointment with this big windup. And then the announcement came and people were like, so you don't have more to tell us about? But what it is J.J. Abrams is partnering up with his son, Henry, and they have written a comic. Yeah, that's pretty much the internet's response. So J.J. Abrams and his son Henry have teamed up to write a miniseries where they're going to introduce a new Spider-Man villain. Yeah, so the thing is that JJ isn't even a real comic book fan. He worked at a comic book store back in the day, but he is not really a comic book fan. And supposedly Henry actually is a comic book fan. And, grew up reading some early comics and then kind of got into it in his preteen years. But JJ calls his son Henry the real comic book fan, even though it's not quite clear how long, he actually collected or how deep he actually was into the hobby. So these guys are partnering up, father and son, and which I think is really cool. And they are basically going to do a miniseries in which they're going to introduce a new character. And I think it's like Cadaverous or something like that. I think so. I'm guessing it's some kind of amalgamation of dead body parts, or cadaverous. I mean, that's kind of like what comes to mind when you start to think about the root word of cadaver. And they're partnering up with Sarah Pacelli. I think that's how you say her last name. She is going to do the artwork on this thing. And I can't remember who the inker was, but even people were a little disappointed with the selection of Sarah as the particular artist. But the thing kind of fell flat. And, everyone's kind of staring at this thing like Ghost Toes Memory says, I needed the cricket sounds right there. We are low budget over here, bro. We just use silence to hammer home points. I do that in the vlogs where I'm like, pause. That's how I add emphasis, right? See, Ghost Toes Memory thought it was going to be the new Gibbon movie. Thought they were dropping the Gibbon, but no. So it's interesting to see what is, the people's reaction to this. Matt says he was thinking it was James Gunn was coming back. Someone thought that it was going to be like a crossover. There was actually a discussion on another channel that I was watching about a Venom Spider-Man crossover. That's what people were expecting. But again, because of how it was being distributed on the Marvel Entertainment channel, it could not be a movie because it would basically fall over to the MCU. So Comics and Beer says cool new Spider-Man villain or foe coming up. So I mean, I think that's really cool. But here's the thing is that it definitely fell flat. And I think it let a lot of people down who were expecting this to be a really sexy announcement. But here's the thing. Did Marvel let people down? That's what I'm starting to think is, did they actually let people down? I struggle with the idea of Marvel investing so much time, energy, and effort into raising the awareness of this campaign, right? Because it takes money to do all of the social media stuff, all of the animation, all that kind of stuff. It takes money. And so would they do that just for a comic book miniseries to introduce a new foe? I don't know. And J.J. Abrams is saying it's going to be a fresh take on Spider-Man, which is a high bar, right? Because Spider-Man's been around forever. So it's a really high bar for him to say that. But here's the thing. Did Marvel really let people down, or is there more to it? J.J. Abrams is a super, super talented filmmaker. And he's not a comic book fan. He's not a comic book writer. But he's a filmmaker. Pause. So here's the thing, is what he and his son trying to do is to create their own source material to draw from for a later movie. Could that be what they are trying to do? Because I think there was some conversation here in the interview and some other things that I looked at where he was saying that there was some ongoing discussion with Marvel about this and this fresh take, this new villain, in the fact that he is a filmmaker and not a comic book guy, to me, lends itself that to maybe what they are doing is doing a setup for the future films that could be coming out featuring Spider-Man and this new villain. And so, if you think about this guy's career, and I actually pulled up his page here. He's done a lot of stuff. Armageddon, which I thought was a fantastic movie. Cloverfield, which I really enjoyed. Star Trek episodes, The Force Awakens. I'm sorry, Star Wars. Sorry about that. He's done a couple of Star Wars things. He's done Alias, Fringe. I loved Fringe back in the day. He's done a lot of Star Trek and Star Wars stuff. And so here's the thing. Is what he is doing, is he basically creating his own source material for a future movie? Because that would make sense if they are doing the big wind up right now. Ghost Host Memory says Fringe was dope. I was sad when they canceled it because it was dope. It could be what he is doing is laying the foundation for him to be able to create his own movie later on featuring this new character and this supposed fresh take on Spider-Man. And so I think only time will tell whether that is indeed the case. But J.J. Abrams, as a successful filmmaker who has made a ton of money, doesn't just start doing comic books for no reason. That to me just doesn't quite make sense. And so that's what's leading me to believe that maybe there is something more to it. Maybe he is going to eventually come out with a killer movie featuring this new character, featuring this fresh take on Spider-Man that people will absolutely love, because this was a big wind up for a, hey, we're doing a miniseries. Thud. It's a big wind up. So let me see here. I want to see a countdown for Marvel using better card stock. Adam, you're a nut. See, here we go. So Whitewell is basically saying Josh Whedon was a TV guy, and then he wrote Astonishing X-Men, and that was great. Yes, that is very true. But hasn't he gone on to do more TV adaptions of comics? So he is basically, to the point that we're making here, he started off in one genre, he went to another, and then he started to kind of blend the two, because I think Josh is also doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is super dope. Super dope stuff. And I agree. I think it was Astonishing X-Men. I actually loved that series back in I think it was the mid 2000s or something like that when I was reading that. So my point is, I think that what could be happening here is you could have the blending of these things, right? To the point of another video that I made about Paramount, there is a lot of money out there with comic book source material, and there's a lot of money with comic book movies, and it stands to reason that people are going to start getting into the game that you don't necessarily think about as comic book creators or comic book filmmakers that are potentially going to start sliding into that genre, because there is a lot of money to be made. So it'll definitely be interesting to kind of see how this plays out. So I'm scrolling through some of the comments. Ghost Lantern is making some comments about Keanu Reeves for Moon Knight. That was another one of those things that has been rumored, and people have sent me a couple of messages asking whether they've clarified what role Keanu Reeves is going to play, and it's still up in the air. I've seen everything now from Moon Knight to Reed Richards to Adam Warlock to a character in dang it, in Eternals, right? It's like all this speculation as to what's going to happen. Now we see Eddie's talking about Keanu for Namor. Yeah, maybe it's going to be interesting. I think that that's what's so cool about all of this stuff, is that we can pontificate and speculate and have fun doing it, and we could all be wrong, and then like one of us will be right, and it doesn't matter because we're still having some fun. Zorro in the house. How you doing, brother? It's good to see you. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to kind of see what's going to happen with this. So there's a question here about Tales of Suspense 39. I actually don't even know that book, to be honest with you, so I can't really answer that question. But if you reach out to me on Instagram, we can probably spend a little time having a back and forth and kind of arrive at some kind of conclusion. So yeah, Downright Nerdy Podcast. There's a couple of things that have come out recently about John being selected for Reed Richards. There were some conversations about the fact that Susan Storm has been selected. They were looking at The Rock for The Thing. There was a lot of speculation as to what's going to happen with the first family. And I've heard at least two names batted around for Reed Richards and also for Sue Storm. At the end of the day, until official announcements are made, it's all speculation in my book, right? It is all speculation about what Keanu Reeves is going to do. There's a lot of people, to the point that I was just making, because there's so much money here, there's a lot of people vying for director roles and acting roles and producer roles and all that good stuff, because this is what's hot right now. And so until official announcements are made, it's all speculation. It's all make believe. And it's just, in my opinion, people having fun about what's going to happen. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether it's a DC movie, an Atlas movie, a Marvel movie. It's all about, can you make a good movie? Can you take the source material and make it better, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you're talking about. Telling a story using some great source material and just embellishing it to the point where people can get on board and just go to the movie and enjoy it. That's what the MCU has done. right? That's what the MCU has done for more than 10 years with 22 movies. And the question is, all of these other people, can they do it? Can MCU continue it? And I think that they can, but time will tell how all of this stuff is going to kind of play out. So Brian is saying too many Spider-Man. Hold on, I lost this cat comment. Too many Spider-Man movies already, and agree this is not a big deal. Marvel thinks they can tap into filmmakers' karma for a new rag. Let me tap our community for new talent. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I actually have a vlog coming out probably next week talking about writers, right? Because I've been talking to a lot of people about writers, and I've had one person, well, a couple of people actually say that they're going to burn out Donny Cates. Like Donny Cates is like the hottest writer. They're going to burn him out because they're making him do too much stuff. So I don't know that new talent coming into comics from the outside, I don't know if that's a bad thing. If you look at Whitewell's comment here a few moments ago about Josh Whedon, having somebody from the outside come in isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that it can be good, especially if you believe that they have talent, and if you believe that if you overuse your current talented people that they will get burnt out. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. At the end of the day, make a good movie, make a good comic, and people will support it. And it doesn't matter to me where it comes from. If you do a good job, I'll be there to support you, So I'm scrolling through some of the comments. They'll say Rock was interested in Namor. The Rock is way too big to play Namor. He is way too big. I mean, depending upon when Namor is depicted. I mean, when he first dropped in, he was like, he was stringy and blue. Then he just became stringy and skinny. And then at, various points, he became kind of jacked, but he was never Rock big, at least from what I remember. I mean, he's been jacked, but not Rock big. So, and again, I think it's one of those things that everyone's interested in anything, but the Rock, his ability to play Namor, I think is going to be pretty tough, just from the standpoint of how many movies is he already committed to, right? I mean, we're probably looking at 2030 before the dude can even get around to it. I mean, because he has Black Adam that he has to do, and I'm sure he has a slate full of movies already set up. I mean, Black Adam was pushed off for another year or so because of his conflicts that existed with other movies already. So we'll see what happens. Scrolling through some of the comments here, Warner Brothers has a $500 million deal with Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams production company. There you go. Mark's Madness is dropping the knowledge here that there could be some deals in the place already with J.J. Abrams' Bad Robots production company to potentially do some future movies, of which this Spider-Man movie could be one. Who knows? Sully to Kings heard the same thing about about The Rock being in the running for Namor. Bro, it could be anybody. It could be, I mean, because isn't technically, Prince Namor is technically Asian-like, but The Rock has kind of like an exotic look. So, I mean, he could pull it off. I mean, he doesn't have hair though, does he? And Namor definitely has some flowing locks. Here's a comment from my man Whitewell. He says, I just want continuity in comics again, but apparently that's too much to ask. That is hilarious. Hey, Whitewell, with that little figure that you drop in, do you have that thing like cut and paste ready, or do you type that every time? I'm just curious because I think that thing's cool. Every time I see that, I think it's cool. Scrolling through some of the comments here, Ghost Host Memory says Tales to Astonish 39 has an FMV of $1.2 million. So yeah, if anybody has $1.2 million to buy a comic, show your boy some love. That's all I'm gonna say. Keanu Reeves could play all characters in this. What was that Eddie Murphy movie where he played like 8 characters sitting around a table? Let's go, Keanu Reeves. And I mean, the thing is, Keanu is actually a talented dude. He has an incredible range. He has some talent as an actor. At 52 years of age, I don't know how much action stuff he could do. They like to reserve that for younger actors, but at the same time, at 52, he is like in the sweet spot when it comes to the MCU, because so many MCU actors are in their late 40s and 50s that Keanu fits right in there, so it's possible. I don't see him doing a whole lot of action stuff, but body doubles and stunt doubles and all that good stuff works out quite nicely. Scrolling through some of the comments, I don't think he would make a good Wolverine. I have to disagree with that one. I think you need somebody, Hugh Jackman was, I think, a fantastic Wolverine, fantastically talented actor, great physique. But if you want to take it back to the original, you need a shorter guy, right? I think Hugh Jackman was like 6 feet, 6'2", something like that. You need a shorter guy, a stockier guy, gruff exterior to play a good Wolverine. And I think what you would want to do, if it were me, if I were doing casting for Wolverine, I would select a younger actor. I would probably go with an actor like in his 30s or something like that. That way you could get a good, 10 years or so out of that character across multiple movies over a period of time to really get your money's worth and to allow that character and that actor to really establish himself in the MCU, right? If you think about the first real phase or the first part of the MCU was really built around Tony Stark, right? And it was built around Robert Downey Jr. And so the question becomes, who is going to be the next character that the MCU will be rooted in, right? And it could be mutants. It could be Wolverine. And to that point, it might make sense to go with a younger actor, one that is not well known, and then you can ride him for the next 10 years. That to me would probably be a better way to go versus an actor who is already in his 50s trying to leverage him for that length of time. It might not work out so well. So Jason here is supporting the selection of Sarah as the artist for the new J.J. Abrams and Henry Abrams movie. Sorry. Slip of the tongue, slip of the heart mini series, which will be turned into a movie. Downright Nerdy podcast agrees that speculation is fun. I mean, that's what makes all this stuff fun, man. It's, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It's like, can you have some fun? Can you connect some dots that actually make sense and that have the ability to stand up to a little bit of pressure, right? And if you can do that, it's all fun. That's all that this is about. It's about having a little bit of fun. And if I'm wrong, who cares? Nobody will remember anyway. Scrolling through some of the comments, Keanu for Adam Warlock, The Rock for CGI Jim Lee style thing. Hey, I mean, again, anything is possible, man. I mean, I honestly think The Rock could be a dope thing. I think he really could. He has he wouldn't need as much like insulation and foam and padding as like Michael Chiklis had. And I thought he did a really good job with Thing, to be honest with you. But The Rock has, I think, the stature, the size, and the acting ability to do the Thing pretty darn well. And so I think that could be cool to see. I would pay money to see that one. And there's this big debate about whether we're going to see the mutants first or whether we're seeing the Fantastic Four first. Again, all speculation. Who the heck knows which one is going to come first? Danny DeVito for Wolverine. No, Danny DeVito for me is forever the Penguin. Forever the Penguin. He played back in, what was it, the 80s with Michael Keaton. He was the dopest Penguin ever. And I was never really a Penguin fan, but I can picture him right now playing that role. That dude is talented. Bring Danny DeVito back as the Penguin. Sign me up for that one. Scrolling through some of the comments, The Rock's voice isn't gruff enough. You could be right. You could be right about that. I won't take that away from you, but you put one of those little voice box things on him and make it gravelly. IMJ says Danny DeVito for Mole Man. Bro, yes. That would be cool. That would be cool. The Mole Man is actually a pretty interesting character, but throw those little shades on him with the little slits in it. That is awesome. So Ariel says, I agree that The Rock would be great as a Thing, but he wouldn't play a character that isn't frontline. I think, I could probably get on board with that, right? Because Reed Richards is definitely a front runner character. Sue Storm, depending upon who writes her or who depicts her, could be a secondary character. Johnny Storm is probably going to be in the front. But I think you're right. The Thing is not, and I'm not the greatest with Fantastic Four history and trivia, right? But I would probably agree that he's more of a secondary, tertiary kind of character. So I could probably agree with that. But the question becomes, would would The Rock sign up for playing a tertiary or secondary character if there was more down the line for him to be able to do? Right? In the sense of being able to play other characters, maybe the way that Josh Brolin has done, or the ability to have a standalone movie. Think, Thing, Human Torch team up movie, if that's even a possibility, right? So I don't know. I don't know. And again, if you pay somebody enough money, they'll do it, So I don't know. We'll see. And again, this is all about speculation. And who the heck knows? Brian is talking about an all-female MCU movie. A-Force is his pick. So that was like true spec, right? There was a lot of rumors about that A-Force movie that was going to drop. And I think that is gone bye-bye. I don't see much in the way of noise about that A-Force. And I don't even know how popular the A-Force comic actually was, but that won't necessarily stop them from making it. At the end of the day, to me, it doesn't matter whether it's an all-female cast, all-male cast, whatever. I'm being extreme. Make some good movies. Make some good movies, spend some money, make some good movies, and people will show up to watch it. And if they're able to do that, then I think people will definitely show up. So I'd be happy with whoever The Rock would play. He'd be a really good villain, says Greek Freak. Greek Freak. Casting call: Al Pacino as Wolverine, Arnold as Colossus. Scrolling through, an A-Force would either be huge or a flop. Big risk, big reward. Well said. Well said. And there's a little bit of movement right there, right? With women taking better roles. I think that it depends. It would be risky to just drop an all-female cast movie, because I don't know that there are any really widely popular female characters in comic books. Now, if you did a couple of introductions of some minor popular characters, then you could build up to that. Like if you drop She-Hulk into an MCU movie, and then maybe a couple of other characters, like maybe a Monica Rambeau, right, with Photon or whatever, and you start to introduce them, and then you kind of see them come together as a team, and then you do a team movie, that could potentially work. But to drop a all-female movie, or even a movie for that matter, of completely unknown characters, right, that could be risky and could be a flop. But again, a lot of it depends upon who writes it, who's acting in it, the promotion that goes around it, and you never know. You never know what's possible. So I'm scrolling through some of the comments here. No, man, the She-Hulk is the bomb, bro. Have you read She-Hulk 1? She-Hulk is the bomb. Sign me up for some of that. I actually just read Sleepwalker. Talk about don't sleep on Sleepwalker. Disappointed about what? Fire. Scrolling through some of the comments. Isn't She-Hulk's rights tied up with the Hulk? Yeah, but I mean, you could say the same thing about Spider-Man's rights being tied up. But again, if you throw enough money at a problem, then things kind of go away. And yes, that's why I think that they were looking at doing this Hulk, She-Hulk TV show, in which Mark Ruffalo would basically be the Hulk, and then they would transition him out as his contract ends and allow Jennifer Walters to basically step forward and basically continue running with things as the TV show. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that the rights for She-Hulk, Hulk, Spider-Man, Venom, Namor are all convoluted, right? But if you throw enough money at a situation, you'd be surprised how much red tape actually goes away. And again, with how much money there is to be made in comic book related movies, there is money to go around to actually clear up some of these rights issues. IMJ says, has anyone considered The Rock as a Silver Surfer? Whoa, bro. I don't think there's a surfboard built that can carry that weight. Scrolling through some of the comments, Big Will has arrived. How you doing, brother? He is saying She-Hulk would be awesome. I'm telling you, man, She-Hulk is a solid character. I mean, super sexy, right? Depending upon who's drawing her. She has teamed up as part of the FF, as part of the Avengers. I mean, she's been on lots of different teams. She can stand on her own. She's super smart, super strong. I mean, there's a lot of range with that character, and you can do some like, Ally McBeal stuff, or, where she's, or even like what they did in the Netflix series where they had, Daredevil basically doing his day job during the day and then, being an Avenger at night. You could do something like that, and that could be fun. There was a lot of range with a character like She-Hulk, to be honest. Maybe not necessarily the one that's being depicted right now in Avengers, the crazy one, the savage one, but there's some room there, man, to make that work. Adam says there's a ton of women in Spider-Gwen cosplay at MegaCon. Very nice, very nice. Scrolling through some of the comments here, Savage Avengers. Yeah, I've heard really good things about the Savage Avengers. I have not read any of it myself, but I've heard some really good stuff about it. I've heard great things about the Conan series. I have not read that, but I've heard good things about that. And I may have to pick it up, man, because I've never been a big Conan fan, but people are saying Conan is really, really well done. And I think like Conan is teaming up with like the Punisher and Wolverine and some other guys. So it could be interesting to see what happens with that. So the almighty Liger King is saying not enough Marvel female solo acts. They're all on teams. Exactly. That was the point that I was making, is that you would have to start to introduce some of these characters in some other movies, in my opinion, to kind of build up the interest in those characters. But to jump out there with a completely unknown cast of characters could set things up the wrong way. So Sully to King says he is waiting for a She-Hulk movie. Could be dope. Could be dope, my friend. Savage Avengers movie could absolutely be nuts. You could be right about that. So scrolling through, White Whale is basically saying people like Spider-Gwen in theory, but the book's not so good. Scrolling through, I don't know anything about Power. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. So Big Will saying, I know we're talking about Marvel, but I want to see Power Girl, the better Supergirl, bro. Sign me up for Power Girl. Yeah, buddy, sign me up for that. I'm on board. I'm on board with that. That would be bananas. That would be bananas. Scrolling through. So a She-Hulk movie would be great feel-good flick if they made it without agenda. I don't even know if it would be a feel-good movie, man. I wouldn't go for that. I mean, I think that, She-Hulk, man, she's a beast. And I think if you did the whole lawyer by day thing, superhero at night, it could be a fun movie to watch, right? And I would put her in action scenes and let her go bang some heads and have some fun with it. But to your larger point, IMJ, I think that you're right. I think that people don't necessarily like the hidden agendas. And that's one thing that I've kind of gathered from a lot of the conversations that we've been having about various videos that I've done. I think that people don't really like the agendas, right? And at the end of the day, I keep saying it. I've said it a few times. Make a good movie and people will show up to support it. If you make a good movie, then that's all that matters, right? And you can put your tidbits in there if you want to do it. But if the overall movie is good and not about that tidbit, it's not about that agenda, people probably won't mind it as much. And if they do mind it, it'll be more of a footnote versus being the primary thing that they focus on, So we'll see. Zoro saying She-Hulk would be amazing. She knows she's in a comic. Yeah, she breaks the fourth wall. There you go. Zoro got it. Breaks the fourth wall like Deadpool. I mean, again, it could be fun. Matthew says he is going to comic collecting shop in Sunnyvale. Bro, have fun. Have fun. If Phil is there, tell Phil I said, what's up? That is one of my favorite places to go get Amazing Spider-Man books. And you guys have probably seen some of the footage that I've shot while hunting. The comic collecting shop in Sunnyvale is a really good shop. They have a solid wall. If Phil is in town, because Phil travels with his collection, I think I don't know. He told me he's doing a ton of shows this year. I think he's going to Vegas or no, Los Angeles next, I think. But it's a great shop for back issues. I don't really buy, I've never actually bought anything that was new. I've always gone there for like big, Amazing Spider-Man books, but the guy has everything. Great selection. So enjoy yourself, Matt. Spend some money for me, my friend. I am actually headed the other direction. I'm actually going to go to Modesto. Oh no, it's not Modesto. What area is that? It's out. Stockton. I'm going to Stockton today. I'm going to go hunting in Stockton. I'm going to film some videos while I'm out there, hit up 3 comic shops. At least that's the goal, and see what's up out there. So fingers crossed that we can have some good stuff. So Omega Comics is making the point that a She-Hulk, Spider-Woman, Invisible Woman, Captain Marvel would be a good collaboration. That's not bad. For me, it would be cool to see She-Hulk. I can get on board with Spider-Woman. Invisible Woman, I think you save her for an FF movie. Maybe you throw in like a Monica Rambeau, the Photon. That would be give you a little bit of diversity in that. That would be kind of cool to kind of see her. I don't know if you would go with Captain America. I'm sorry, Captain Marvel. You could. Um, you could. That could be dicey, but she is a super powerful character, and so you could definitely roll with that. And the question becomes, do you throw in a couple of other characters in there? You throw in the female Hawkeye or something like Kate Bishop or somebody like that. It could be interesting. It could be interesting if they decide to go that route. Jesse is asking who could play the She-Hulk, bro. I don't know. I don't do well with that. What's the girl from Alias? Go with the girl from Alias. Jennifer Gardner. I like Jennifer Gardner. I like her. I think she's had like a couple of babies. So maybe she's like busy with that kind of stuff. I don't know if she's still acting, to be honest with you. But scrolling through some of these, do you think Knull will make an appearance? So Donald is asking if Knull. So a lot of people have asked that question about Knull. And the question becomes, could you do Knull without giving all of the backstory to make him relevant? I mean, they're literally still building this guy's backstory and still building his character out to some degree or another. And the question becomes, do they want to lend him to the MCU? I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, you would have, I don't know. I haven't seen all the Venom movies, to be honest with you, but the question becomes, is there enough there where they can, explain Venom, explain the symbionite, and then also explain Knull all in one movie? Or does it have to be spread across? I don't know. I don't know. The Knull thing is definitely a really cool concept, but is it too much for a single movie, or would you have to do it over multiple movies? And is there enough foundation with Venom and Venom's character in order to make some magic happen? One of the things that I'm kind of enjoying is like some of the stuff that they're doing with Eddie Brock and Venom just as a whole, right? Giving us more backstory into both the origin and the background and all that kind of stuff. And I'm definitely enjoying that kind of stuff. So could that be played out in the movie? I don't know. I would have to think a little more about that, Scrolling through some of the comments here. Jason Wood just dropped a super chat for $2. Thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Ronda Rousey. Can she act? I don't know if she can act. Comics and beers. I mean, she definitely can do the fight scenes. There's no doubt about that. I don't know about her acting abilities, and I think it will depend upon, are you trying to make it more of an action movie, or do you want it to be more of like the lawyer courthouse stuff? And I don't know about Ronda Rousey's acting chops. I think she appeared in, what was it? The Expendables. I don't know that she did a really good job in that, but that was also years ago. So I think it would depend upon the script that is written and whether it's intended to be more of, the in the suit or in the tights. If it's a blending of two, I think you might need a super talented actor, but I don't know. I think Ronda Rousey is not a terrible idea. It's not a terrible idea. As I oftentimes tell my wife, you could be right. Cates is going to do something big in the comic runs before they let him go to the big screen. You could be right about that. First, there will be Carnage. You see what I'm saying? So there you go. Max is making the point here that they have to lay a little bit more of a foundation for some things before getting to Knull. He's like, first there will be Carnage. The Symbionite planet is established, so maybe in the third movie. There you go. I think Knull is one of those concepts that's a big one that you kind of want to build up to. You know what I'm saying? At least it worked well for the comics, but that's only because people were making it up after the fact. I don't think that that was something that they set out to do. It's been something that's been done over time as people have gone back and tried to add to things that were done before, to retcon things. And so, but I think if you want to go into it purposefully, and I don't know that Sony has a purpose, to be honest with you. I don't know if they have a long-term vision for things, but you know, that could be the way to do it, right? You introduce Carnage. I'm sorry, you introduce Venom. You establish him as a character. You go to Carnage the way that they did in comics. You establish him as a character, and you just kind of build from there. I mean, I would even like to see some anti-Venom, some Flash Thompson stuff. I mean, that could all be dope. That's all really good stuff, you know? Liger King agrees too early for Knull. Scrolling through some of the comments here. I just need to know now so I can get like 30 copies of Venom 3, says Donald. Greek Freak says, I think Venom 3 is a good buy either way. Not sure about 30 copies though. You know, Donald likes to think big, bro. He goes big. He goes hard with stuff, you know? Vin Diesel is no, bro. I think Vin Diesel's done. That's I don't know. I was a big Vin Diesel fan with what was that movie where the lights went out? He was on the planet fighting the aliens with the necromancers. I can't think of the movie. That was by far one of my favorite Vin Diesel movies, was that one. And he was like jacked. He was in the dark. He was a dope silent killer. He had muscle, you know, Riddick. There we go. Chronicles of Riddick. That to me is a Vin Diesel movie, you know, and I don't know how old he is now. So I don't know. And I don't think physically he's there anymore. He could probably get back there if that was what the role required, right? Because anybody can get in shape if you need to. If you put enough effort into it, anybody can get in shape. And so I don't know. But Riddick, I was Pitch Black, man. I'm telling you, those were dope movies. That one scene where he was looking the monster in the face, like face to face, and they were in the dark, and he was like mimicking and mirroring him. Oh. That movie was the bomb. And then the Mancers, I think they were necromancers. And he became the king, almost like Conan. If you think about it, it was almost like Conan. He squared off against them, killed the main guy, basically became king. And then he realized that he had basically had a whole kingdom to run. I was waiting for like the next movie to drop. I loved that series. Loved it. IMJ basically is talking about how Vin Diesel is going to be Bloodshot for the next film. Yeah. So, I mean, he's probably gotten himself into shape to film that, because I think Bloodshot has some muscle. So, as long as Vin Diesel only has 3 words of dialogue, he's good. Oh my goodness, Eddie, you are a nut. You are a nut, my friend. White, well, thank you for hanging out, brother. It's good to see you, my man. Have a good day at work. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Valiant stuff as well, because I think they have a 5-movie deal, and I think only 2 to 3 of the movies have been announced. So I think it's also one of those things of what will the other movies be. And that's part of the reason why about 6 months ago, I bought up a bunch of Valiant keys in anticipation of, you know, the announcements. I'm a big fan of trying to be ahead of the curve versus trying to play catch up and paying like extra money for stuff, you know, if I can help it. So for those that came in late, basically where we started this conversation was this whole idea of the disappointment that fans are expressing about the news that came out today related to Spider-Man, right? There was a lot of speculation over the course of several days about it possibly being a new Spider-Man movie. And what it turned out to be is that J.J. Abrams and his son Henry Abrams are teaming up to write a comic book, a mini series featuring Spider-Man, an all new take on Spider-Man, and introducing a new character, a new villain that will square off against Spider-Man. And so a lot of people expressed some disappointment because there was this build up and people were like expecting something big. And then when it dropped, people were like, that's it. And so, but where I started to go with the conversation was basically pointing out that maybe it's not about the miniseries. Miniseries fell a little flat. Maybe it's not about the miniseries. Maybe what is going to happen is that J.J. Abrams, Marvel, and Henry Abrams are basically laying the foundation for a movie that will eventually come out, or even a series of movies that will come out, leveraging the content that J.J. Abrams and his son are basically writing. Because J.J. Abrams is a critically acclaimed filmmaker and also TV maker. And so the idea is he creating his own source material for movies down the road? And that's my idea, because you don't have all this hype for a miniseries, in my opinion, right? And so to make it make sense, then you hearken back to what it is that J.J. Abrams does, which is make movies and TV shows. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because here's my thing, and I've spoken about this before, is what is about to happen with Jonathan Hickman's Power of 10 and House of 10. That is what is about to happen with what Jonathan Hickman is about to do for the X-Men. He is about to drop this two-part story arc. I'm sorry, not two-part. These two titles that will alternate over the course of several weeks. He is about to lay the foundation for what will become the X-Men movies down the road. This guy, Jonathan Hickman, has been nodded to several times heavily by the MCU movies, especially for Avengers Endgame and other movies. He's been tapped. His content, they like it for movies. And he is basically now about to create what will be the future X-Men movies. And so I am going to be picking up lots of House of 10, Power of 10, because those comics that will come out will serve as the foundation for the movies that will come out when when X-Men are introduced into the MCU. I believe that they're going to be rooted very heavily in what Jonathan Hickman is about to roll out in a couple of months. So IMJ says he just realized that there's some new stuff on the wall. Yeah, I switched out the entire wall. The entire wall is all new, and it is all Spider-Man except for one book. So yeah, man. Max is basically saying Mountain Man Marco as a new villain. Probably not. He's a interesting character, but MCU worthy villain, probably not, because he'd get mollywopped in like the first 10 seconds. But yeah, so that I wanted to give a heads up to those people that came into the chat a little bit late as to what I was talking about. If you want to hear more details on it, just go back and watch the replay. But I want to thank you guys for the thumbs up that you're giving this video. Thank you for joining me for this impromptu live stream to kind of talk about what Marvel is doing. And the title of this video was a little cryptic, but I don't think that it is a true disappointment. I think that the news fell a little flat, but I want to believe that there is more to it. That's how I'm choosing to look at this, versus, you just wasted my time with this BS announcement. I'm actually looking at it as this is the start of what could be something really awesome down the line. So definitely not a negative video. I think it's definitely a positive video. So again, I want to thank you guys for spending a little bit of time with me. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so. Reggie Collects on Instagram, and reggiecollects@gmail.com. Thank you again for the thumbs up on the video. And if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I definitely want to encourage you to do so that you can stay abreast of all the content that I release on a weekly basis. And that way you can also be in the running for the giveaways that I do. Don't forget, if you guys are up in Canada watching this video, be sure to check out the video that I released, I think last week, where I talk about a new service that is available for Canadians and to some degree or another for people in other parts of the world as well. Severe discounts on new comics that are coming out in previews magazines. So you definitely want to go back and check out that video. There is a pretty good incentive that is put in place. I think if you buy over $100, you actually get your shipping for free, but you definitely want to go back and watch that other video for all of the details. And like I said, if you guys need me, if you want to chat a little bit, don't hesitate to reach